गणपतये नमः। ॐ सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। स्वतन्त्रा सर्वतन्त्रेषि दक्षिणामूर्तिरूपिणी सनकादिसमाराध्या शिवज्ञानप्रदायिनी अखण्डमण्डलाकारम् व्याप्तं येन चराचरम् तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ब्रह्मादिदेववन्द्याय सर्वलोकाश्रयाय ते दक्षिणामूर्तिरूपाय शंकराय नमो नमः। Let us take in Shiva Shakti, Dakshinamurti in 5 deep breaths. Om Shiva Shakti Om. 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 तत्त्वार्थमन्ते वसतां ऋषीणां यो वापि यत्सन्नुपदेष्टुमीष्टिं प्रणौमितं प्राक्तनपुण्यजालैः आचार्यमाश्चर्य गुणाधिवासम् एकेन मुद्रां परशुं करेण चान्येन मृगं दधान स्वजानुविन्यस्तकर पुरस्तात् आचार्यचूडामणिरागिरस्तु आलेपवन्तं मदनाङ्गभूत्या शार्दूलकृत्या परिधानवन्तम् आलोकये कञ्चन देशिकां चारुस्मितं सोमकरावतं वीणाधरं व्यक्तजटाकलापम् उपासते केचन योगिनस्त्वाम् उपात्तनादानुभवप्रमोदम् उपासतेयं मुनयः शुकाद्याः निराशिषो निर्ममताधिवासाः तं दक्षिणामूर्ति तनुं महेशम् उपास्महे मोहमहातिशायि कान्त्यानिन्दितकुन्दकन्दलवपु यग्रोधमूले वसन् कारुण्यामृतवारिभिर्मुनिजनं सम्भावयन् वीक्षितैः मोहध्वान्तविभेदनं विरचयन् बोधेन तत्तादृशा देवस्तत्त्वमसीति बोधयतु मां मुद्रावता पाणिना. I'm really happy that some of you have asked me the question regarding the figure of that mystical eye, which I showed you in the last class. And the most striking point among all the questionnaires was how to use this mystical eye figure in Omkara sadhana, in dhyana. So instead of writing it on the WhatsApp group, I thought it's better if I tell it. Om. And today it is Pradosha Samaya right now in Canada. So we are all really fortunate that we are thinking of Om, Pranava, and also about Dakshinamurti. Beautiful. So the figure which I was showing you all in the last class is this. What do you see? If anyone asks that question, we say, we see the figure, isn't it? So this figure represents the false I when it is active, aham, I. When I am in that consciousness of false I see this figure mainly, which is the world, which is the manifestation. So, as toddlers, what we see is the figure which attracts our eyes. The objects attracts our eyes. Not the plain sheet, which is Atma, the base, the support. It doesn't go to our mind. We concentrate on the object. So, Omkara is meditated in two ways. In the beginning, this Omkara as Shabda, when we see it as reciting Om, the sound, it starts from silence and then it goes as Ah. and it ends in silence. When we take it as the manifestation of the universe, it is the unmanifested. From there, it starts Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya. And again, it goes back to unmanifestation. When we take it in the aspect of eternity, the time, from eternity, it starts as past, present, and future, and then again it goes back to eternity. Atma, as Jivatma, we are just Atma. But we go through the state of Jagrut, Swapna, Sushupti, and again into Atma. In the same way, Brahman, he gives rise to the cosmos as Virat, Hiranyagarbha, and Ishvara, and again it becomes Brahman. So, when we are looking at the whole Omkara, we are taught to concentrate on U, Ma, silence. So, in our mind, it will be going as and then this. So, this is one. The very first stage where we are understanding Om as it starts from silence, but it has all the three major portion as the main thing. And then again it goes back to the silence or the unmanifestation. When we are understanding, getting in deep into understanding that Ma, what is it? How it is? How that Brahman is working in this manifestation. Once we are satisfied with that, what happens? Slowly we start recognizing that silence is there throughout. Unmanifestation is there throughout. Brahman is there throughout. Atma is there throughout. Eternity is there throughout. Turiya is there throughout, which is going through Jagrut, Swapna, Sushupti, different state of existence. So, once we understand that, the mind starts going towards enjoying the silence, which is making us understand there are three letters. A, U, Ma. The silence in between. We start giving importance for that silence. So when that happens, the whole figure, the whole manifestation becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. It zooms out, which was big. It starts zooming out and becomes very small. The whole manifestation, whole universe looks like a small pebble, small living being. And the whole mind is engaged in this. We start seeing it as not as Auma, but Om. Om is compressing this manifested universe, giving rise to the experience of the silence, unmanifestation, Atma, Brahma, eternity for us to go through. But we understand this manifestation is just coming and it is zooming out. So it is not eternal. It is just transient. It is just projection, which we understand. And when that becomes very clear, even that goes off and we become just the Atma, the pure existence, Sat. So when we meditate with the help of this figure, we understand that there are so many experiences in the life, in the universe, which are of different colors, different emotions. Each experience is different, but they all become compressed, and we say that everything is packed as just one seed. So to that extent, we become huge and big, and we realize I am none other than Atma, the pure white sheep. So first we start with Aum, and then we proceed to understanding it as Om. That Om, Brahman has mainly the silence, the Atma, unmanifestation, eternity. In that, the universe comes as a seed and it zooms out. So that is the way I would do the meditation on Omkara. Omkara actually helps us, guides us, and it makes us look into what that silence is. What is that gap in between every thought, every experience is? So that is what I wanted to tell about Omkar. Tattvarthamante vasatam rishinam yuvapi yah sannupadishtu nishte. So here, the rishis who are sitting around Dakshinamurti at his feet are the great sages who are Tattvarthamante Vasatam Rishinam. They are all staying, residing with Dakshinamurti Vasatam. But they are aged. The time factor of this manifested world has affected them, and thus they have become Vriddha, that is aged, old. Not only in the age, but also in Tattvartham, in understanding, in knowing that Tattvartha. What is that Tattvartha? Atmajnana. In understanding, in realizing, in experiencing that Atmajnana, Tattvartha, they are in the last stage. Almost they are there to experience that Atmajnana. Tattvarthamante. The last leg in the race of understanding Atmajnana, experiencing Atmajnana. Whereas, Yuvapi yah sannupadishtu mishte. Dakshinamurti is Yuva. He is youthful, who is yearning to give that Atmajnana, preach Atmajnana to all these rishis. He is beyond the time. He is not affected by the time. He is eternally youth. And because of that youth in him, he is having that excitement. Upadishtu mishte. He is yearning to teach them. Enthusiastic. Even if we look at the human being youth, even the youth who are in their teenage, early 20s, They are away from being just born. They are away from being on the deathbed. So they are in a way away from the influence or effect of the age. The youth, they have so much of energy, emotionally, mentally, physically, and they think they know everything in the world. The rest of the world knows nothing. I'm the only one who knows everything. That self-confidence is so much in the youth. So now you can understand. Yuvapi yah sannupadishtumishte. That Dakshinamurti is really eager to give that Atma Jnana to these rishis who are also well prepared, and they are in the last stage of getting that experience, realization of Atma Jnana. Pranaumitam praktana punya jalaihi. I bow down to that Dakshinamurti because of some punya which I have earned or acquired through my previous janmas or through the effort I must have done, some punya, that I am able to be close to him. Pranaumitam praktana punya jalai. So here we should understand Sukrita punya, praktana punya is very much needed. We can understand it in worldly life also. A youth who is wasting his resources, youthful resources, and loitering around in the bylanes of the city, it will not even occur to him that everyone has the possibility of becoming the Prime Minister of the country. He will be wasting his time. It doesn't even occur to him to apply for the post. Whereas the person who has studied the political science, or one who has the patriotism in his being, he will be orienting himself to become the Prime Minister, and he works for it, and he knows how to plan it out, and he carries on. So these are all the things which is Praktana Punya Jala. One should have that. So if that is the case in the worldly life itself, we can see it directly. What about Dakshinamurti? Dakshinamurti is the ultimate form to have Atma Jnana. Who else can be better than the embodiment of Atma, the pure consciousness, giving us the direct knowledge, transferring the direct knowledge of Atma Jnana. So even to bend down to him, bow down to him, is possible only through the punya which we have acquired. So we all can feel happy that we are all sitting and we are talking about Dakshinamurti, and with lots of love and interest, we all have come together to talk about him, to know about him, which is so beautiful. Acharyam Ascharya Gunadhivasam. And what type of Acharya is this Dakshinamurti? What type of a guru he is? He is filled with wondrous, marvelous qualities which are needed in a guru. A guru can be imparting the knowledge only when he himself becomes that knowledge. Here, Dakshinamurti is giving the knowledge about the Atma Jnana. It's not a joke. So, Dakshinamurti himself, through dhyana, he has become nothing but pure consciousness, solidified as Dakshinamurti form. He is emitting nothing but that pure consciousness. He is emitting the rays of Atma. Because of that, he is reflective, not imbibing anything inside. He is just passing through the knowledge. He is not getting anything affecting him personally because he is pure white and crystal clear. So he's just reflecting. So all this is possible when he is that Atma Jnana. He can preach only when he is that. So being the preacher of Acharya of Atma Jnana, Brahma Jnana, he is having that marvelous quality in him. Which are they? Being that Brahman himself, that pure consciousness. So they are getting ready food as the knowledge of Atma Jnana, which they are enjoying. So, Ekena mudram parashum karena, karena chanyena mrugam dadhana. In one hand, Dakshinamurti is holding mudra, that is Jnana mudra. In another one, he is holding parashu. Parashu means the axe. Both of them are opposite in their effect on the disciples, on the devotees, on the seekers. How is it? Jnana mudra. Here, Jnana mudra itself is saying about that Tattvartha. You are that Brahman. And when it is little pressed, it also acts as the acupressure, because of which one can go within and expand as the Atma. One can go beyond the body limitation. So it acts as acupressure. So that is why during Sankalpa or even during Sandhya Vandana, we have the Karanyasa, all these things. So if you do it slowly, with giving the right amount of pressure, you can observe different parts of your body reacting to that pressure which you are giving here on the hand. So like that, when he's holding here, it is making or teaching the disciple, one can go beyond the limitation of the body and experience the vastness, which is the characteristic of the Atma. In another hand, he is holding the parashu. Parashu here is the axe which is cutting, destroying the ignorance. In Lalita Sahasranam also we have seen Devi, Shakti as Mrityudaru Kutharika. Mrityudaru, the tree of death. Which is that? the whole Martyaloka, the whole manifested world is Mrityudaru, the illusory tree. Mrityudaru Kutharika. She's like that Kutharika, the axe. Same thing here also. Dakshinamurti is also holding that parashu to take away the ignorance. And then Swajanu Karena Chanyena Mrugam Dadhana. He is holding in another hand Mruga, that is the deer. Deer is the representation of the mind, which is working so actively, busily with sensory perception and the sense organs. And it is constantly interacting with the manifested world. And it is too fast in moving like the deer. That he is controlling, holding it in his hand as Mruga. Swajanu Vinyasta Karah Purastat. Opposite to that, he is holding another hand relaxed freely on the knee. So he is trying to show how Jnana Mudra is giving the knowledge. Parashu is cutting down the ignorance. Mruga, it is the mind which is going here and there with such speed. He is holding that. At the same time, he is relaxed. Everything is under control. And he is keeping his hand, another hand, relaxed by stretching it on the knee. Swajanu, that is on the knee, on his knee. Vinyastakara. He has extended it. Purastat in front of. Acharya Chudamani Ravirastu. Let that Acharya, who is Chudamani, the gem of all the gurus. Chudamani is the final jewel which a woman wears after she wears everything. So Chudamani is the most precious jewel. So for all the Guru Mandala, Dakshinamurti is like that Chudamani. True, he has to be that Chudamani, nothing else. Let that Acharya, who is the Chudamani, Avirastu, let him be in front of me, let him come in front of me, let him give that darshana. He is telling. So here also we can understand how Murti Puja is so helpful as Saguna Brahma. We are able to understand and what it is pointing us towards to move forward. And then if we take these four hands of Dakshinamurti, that is in the Saguna Brahma form. If we take Dakshinamurti as the Atma who is very much within every being, even that Atma has the Anthakarana, the four Mano, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chitta. So these four are like this. Atma is the center, Dakshinamurti. Like that, Atma is very much there in every being. Mind is there. Aham is there. Buddhi, the intellect is there. Chitta, the memory is also there. So in these four, he is representing the Jnana Mudra as Aham. When that Aham, the false I, gives way for the real I become Dakshinamurti. As long as I'm hanging on to that false I will stay as Aham, the false I, the limited Jivatma. Buddhi would be that Parushu, the axe. With Buddhi, one can cut the ignorance. Mana, it is the deer, Mriga. Chitta, that memory, what we are today is the personality which is built all over. And when it is under my control, I will be relaxed like Dakshinamurti. Otherwise, I will be caught in the turmoil of the life. Next one, Alepavantam Madananga Bhutya. Shardula Kritya Paridhanavantam. Here, Alepavantam Madananga Bhutya. Dakshinamurti is anointed, applied, smeared with the ash of the body of Manmatha. So it represents winning over the attraction and the attachment to the world, which is represented as Manmatha. And Manmatha is the one who is creating, causing every being to have that kama, the desire, which is giving rise to the attachment and the ignorance. Because of that, we are caught in the samsara, which is caused by this Manmatha. So that is his hold. It is only the pure consciousness, that is Dakshinamurti, Shiva, who could face him and burn him down as pure consciousness. So when he's smearing it all over the body, Alepa means like the scented portion. He's having it all over his body. Madananga Bhutya. Shardula Kritya Paridhanavantam. Shardula Kritya here is the tiger skin. Tiger represents the egotism which every being has. And that egotism is the one which is giving rise to the Arishad Varga, which are they Kama, Krodha, Moha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya. So, Shardula Kritya, by killing the tiger, he is wearing the skin of the tiger around his waist. Shardula Kritya Paridhanavantam. Paridhanavantam means one who is wrapping the tiger skin around his waist. So what does it mean? He has won over all the Arishad Varga, the egotism. That means transforming the negative, lower energies to the positive, higher energy. And that is the reason we also see so many sages making the tiger skin as the asana and they sit on that for meditation or even while preaching, they sit on that. And in Shivananda Lahari, Shankaracharya has brought out this point beautifully, which he is telling here, Shardula Kritya. In one of the shlokas, he says, "Oh, the great hunter Shiva, Why do you have to go here and there for hunting? There's no need for that. You find such ferocious wild animals which have made home in my wild forest-like mind. Hunt them and take the joy of hunting, O Shiva. So that means Shankaracharya is requesting Shiva to hunt those Arishad Varga, all the 6 enemies of a human being, which are like the wild animals like tiger. So, Shardula Kritya Paridhanavantam, he is showing it as victory over egotism. Shardula Kritya. Alokaye Kanchana Deshikendram. And I see, I behold that Deshika Indra. He is the king of all the gurus. Naturally, because Atma, the pure consciousness, is the guru in all the gurus. So unless that pure consciousness guru as Atma is not there, no one can become guru. So he is Deshikendra. Alokaye Kanchana Deshikendram Ajnana Varakara Vadavagnim. And this Dakshinamurti is like the ocean fire for the ignorance, which is like the ocean. He is like the fire. Dakshinamurti is like the fire for the ocean, which is the ignorance. So, ocean fire. There is fire within the ocean as volcano, which is actively creating that Agni, and it just bursts out and it can dry up the water. Like that, Dakshinamurti is that fire which pops up and dries up every drop of ignorance, which is like the ocean. I behold that Acharya, who is like the Vadavagni. Next one, Charusmitam Somakalavatamsam Veenadharam Vyakta Jatakalapam Upasate Kechana Yoginastvam Upatta Nadanubhava Pramodam. It's a beautiful shloka. Dakshinamurti is not using only the one mode of preaching or giving the Atmajnana. He's having different modes. Here he is the Nada Yogi, Nada Brahma. Like that, he is giving the Atmajnana to the Rishi. So, what does it say? Charusmitam. There is beautiful smile. What his inner core is, it is expressed as Charusmita, the beautiful smile. Soma Kalavatamsam, and he is wearing that Chandra, the crescent moon, as the crown on his Jatakalapam, Vyakta Jatakalapam. That means Jata is there when it is left aloof. When it is Baddha, he is Yogi. The way he has done it, the way he has tied the Jata is like the kalapa. It is like an art. He has tied it so artistically. And he is holding veena in his hands. Upasate kechana yogina tvam. Oh, Dakshinamurti. Few, very few fortunate rishis, sages, they worship you, they meditate upon you, who is Upatta Nadanubhava Pramodam, one who is immersed in the Nadanubhava, in enjoying the Nada which is coming out of that Veena. So he is playing the Veena, Dakshinamurti, and he is enjoying himself, that Nada which is coming out of the Veena. The enjoyment of that Nada is making him express as Charusmita. So, what can we understand in this beautiful shloka? When any Veena player is there, their appearance, who is playing, who is listening, the ambience, the atmosphere, and the mindset of the player and the listener, the capacity of the listener and the player, everything influences the outcome of playing the Veena. So, suppose the Veena player is a very small young child, the effect on the listener would be different. If the Veena player is a beautiful woman, highly dressed up, and in the auditorium or in the court, the effect will be different. If the Veena player is more than 90-year-old, the effect will be different. So imagine Dakshinamurti is sitting in that Kailasa under the banyan tree, and the rishis are all well versed in understanding what Dakshinamurti is. And he is not an ordinary player. He is the yogi, Jatadhara, Jatabadha. And that too, he has done it beautifully. So he is not a very harsh kind of yogi. So you have to see all these things. How beautifully Shankaracharya has brought out what he has seen, what he has worshipped Dakshinamurti as. Jata Kalapa. It is looking so artistic. So this yogi is a very soft-hearted, yet very disciplined person. And Chandra, he is wearing the crescent moon. That means he is beyond the time limitation or the presence of the rishis, or where he is. He's totally immersed in his Veena Vadana. And he's with smile. On top of all these things, he is playing the Veena and he is enjoying what is coming out. We should know the quality of Dakshinamurti. He is pure consciousness. Para. Para pratyakchiti rupa. Pashyanti paradevata. Madhyama vaikhari rupa. So there, para is that Brahman who has taken the form as Nada. And it is further Pashyanti. And then it becomes Madhyama. And then it becomes Vaikhari. By the time that para has traveled as Vaikhari, there would have change taken place. But here, the rishis are what they are hearing as Veena Nada, even though it is Vaikhari, because it is coming from, it is created from pure consciousness, Dakshinamurti. It is taking them back as meditation. From Vaikhari, it is going back into Madhyama and to Pashyanti and then to Para. So, here we are understanding Dakshinamurti in the form as Nada Brahma, which he is imparting that Nada is not just the sound, but it has the very source of its Nada as that Para, Brahman. So that he is teaching practically by enjoying himself. So that we have studied in detail both in Lalita Sahasranama and in Saundarya Lahari. So we can enjoy all the more what Dakshinamurti is going through. Now, if we take Dakshinamurti as Atma, who is very much within, the body is that Veena. Nada, which is coming out of that, the player is that Atma, Dakshinamurti. The Veena, Nada is the life which is experienced. That is the Nada. Who are the Rishis? The Antahkarana, which are sitting around the Atma. And Chandra, he is also like an ornament. He is like the crown. So he is serving, that time is serving as an ornament. There is a big difference. When it is an ornament, time is an ornament, the effect of that time will be different. How we see the time, it is different. The effect of time on us is different. For him, the time is like an ornament. Jata Kalapa, the yoga, what he is, one with that para, Nada, the very source of Nada, which is para, because he is in touch with that. He is emitting that para only as Vaikhari. It is a very different music, different player, very unique player. And because of that, every swara is in its perfect sthana. There's no sthana pallata. So even the music is perfect. And it is creating the perfect ambience. And it is passing that Atma Jnana through Nada. Next one, Upasate Yam Munayah Shukadyah Nirashisho Nirmamatadhivasah. O Dakshinamurti, who are worshipping you? They are none other than the sages who are Nirashisha, who are without any desire. That means they have understood what the desire is. Desire is the cause of sorrow. They have understood. And they have come out of it. Nirashisho. Nirmamata adhivasaha. They are wearing nirmamata, non-attachment as the garment, as the robe. Tam Dakshinamurti Tanum Mahesham, I bow down to that Dakshinamurti Tanu, the body of Dakshinamurti. I bow down to that form of Dakshinamurti, who is Mahesha, the Lord who is Maha, the Supreme, Isha. Upasmahe, I worship, I meditate upon. Moha Mahati Shantyai, one who takes away moha, that ignorance which is caused because of the attachment. Maharti, Arti means the sorrow. Maha, the greatest sorrow. He takes away Shantyai, he makes it calm down. He makes it nullify. To that Dakshinamurti, I bow down. Now we have to see it in detail. Upasate yam munayah shukadhyaha nirashisho nirmamatadhi vasaha. Nirasha, asha, the desire, is the thing which is making we Jivatmas to get pinned to this samsara. And because I'm having the attachment to the desired thought, the desired object, the desired being, that attachment is creating more and more moha, ignorance in me. And the combination of all this is giving rise to arti, that sorrow of the samsara. So it is like a catch-22 situation where they all go hand in hand to make us get stuck in the samsara. So nirashisha, but these sages who are sitting at the feet of Dakshinamurti, they are out of the desires. We have desires in different levels and different intensities and various ways, but they have understood desire is the one which causes the next trap. So, nirmamatadi vasaha, these sages are wrapping around themselves non-attachment as the garment. That means they are safeguarded with non-attachment. Nirmamata is not there for them. Whereas we Jivatmas, we are having this attachment as not only a warm cloth, but we are using it as comforter. We are wrapping it around so strongly that we are not ready to give it up at all. We are taking comfort and pleasure in having that attachment as our comforter and the garment to which we are tightly hanging on to. Even though the Guru or the Ishvara gives us the situation to understand and come out of that attachment, but we don't get it, and we try to grab it all the more tighter and try to pull it towards us. That is where the great difference between Jivatma and the sages who have realized that. So, because we are wearing that attachment as the tight garment, it is giving rise to more and more ignorance and maharti. It is creating sorrow. It doesn't mean that you should not enjoy the experience of world. We should enjoy the experiences of this world. But it should be without attachment to it. Just like the way we enjoy the moonlight. We won't possess it. It is my moonlight, you cannot enjoy. Or if the moon, full moon has moved on and if it has become crescent moon, we are not feeling sorrow for it. We have accepted it and we are enjoying it with Sakshi Bhava. The Parvata, the humongous mountain, even that we enjoy and leave it where it has to be. And we just come back. The river, we enjoyed that way. On the lighter note, I would like to say, about 20 years back or 25 years back, when we came to Canada, there were so many access points to enter the lakes in Canada. But since 2 or 3 years, wherever we go, it says no access, private property. No access, private property. So that is another example. How can we make it private, possess something like lake, which should be enjoyed by everyone? But something makes us to grab and make it possessed. I want it. It is my property. That is the thing which is making us go more and more deep into the world. So these rishis, the sages, they know the fact that it is the desire and the attachment which is making us get stuck. So having known this through the blessings of Dakshinamurti, which is like the Rambana for them, they are able to enjoy the experience of this world as Hamsa, the swan. It enjoys the water when it decides to go away. It comes out of the water and just shakes the body in such a way that every drop of the water is gone from the body and the feather becomes very dry and it flies off to very large extent. Per day, it goes about 100 miles. So it has that kind of strength in it. So Atma is also referred as Hamsa. All these yogis do enjoy the water like the swan. Even though they are hot-blooded, warm-blooded, the Hamsas will never be afraid of icy water. They enjoy the same way, icy water. They enjoy the movement of the water going up and down and up and down. In the same way, these sages also enjoy being nirasha, nirmamata. They don't see whether the up and downs of life as painful or joyful. They don't make the difference. They will just enjoy the movement. So that up can be sorrow or joy. The down can be joy or sorrow without getting attached to what it is. They just enjoy the movement of the life, just like the Hamsas. And they are without any attachment and just they come out of the life, what they are leading, and they are sitting at the feet of Dakshinamurti to get that final lesson from direct practical lesson from Dakshinamurti, and they are sitting at his feet. Nirmamatadi vasaha. That is how they do it. Many of the sages, how do they attain that nirasha and nirmamata? They go through the life like all the jivatmas, but they realize and they keep up that sakshi bhava and they come out of that. Another one, another way, like Shankaracharya or Shukamuni, knowing that one day or the other, this experience, what we are going through, has to end. So instead of going through that, they give up even before they get into the life, samsara. So when we understand this, does it mean that worshipping Dakshinamurti, following Dakshinamurti, is only meant for sannyasis and the realized souls, or only the seekers of Atma Jnana? Is it not for samsarins or the worldly pleasure seeking people? That question comes. Shankaracharya answers it at the last line. What does he say? Upasmahe moha mahati shantyai. Dakshinamurti is the one. He being the pure consciousness, he being that Atma, embodiment of Atma. It is he who has the capacity to calm down or the nullifying whatever the sorrow we go through. Moha Mahati. He is the one who takes it up. So moha is there in whom? Is it in the realized masters? No, they have already passed that stage. It is we jivatmas who are steeped in moha. And it is we who have that maharti, the great sorrow. So it is we who need Dakshinamurti. It is we all who need Dakshinamurti and his blessing, his guidance, the jnana which he is giving, Atma Jnana. That is what we need to proceed in the same path as this Nirasha, Nirmamata sages have walked all the way. So we do need it. When we go and ask sannyasis or the realized masters, and if we go and tell about something about Maharti of samsara, you know what they would say? You people have maximum 4 or 5 or 6 people in your family, but I have so many people. I am a bigger samsarin than you all. Vasudhaiva Kutumbaka. They take the whole world as their own family. They won't have any individual desire, any attachment towards individual wants. They are interested in the whole world, the well-being of the whole world. So they don't have that same kind of asha or mamata like we all have. That is the big difference. They are also samsaris. They also need Dakshinamurti's guidance and blessing. They are not out of it. Sometimes this moha, mamata, asha torture them also. Vishwamitra, Menaka story, you might have heard. Durvasa, who could not control the anger. We all know the stories and how they go through the difficult moments because of that. So, what I want to say is Dakshinamurti is the right deity, Saguna Brahman, Guru, who is taking us in the path to overcome Asha and Mamata. So we all need him. Every being, irrespective of what they are, we all need Dakshinamurti and his blessings. Dakshinamurti Tanu Mahesham. Here also we should understand Dakshinamurti Tanu. It is very unique. Tanu is the body which meets the end. But here the Tanu is the power which is expressing the Brahma Tattva, which is pure consciousness. So, the Tanu, the body of Dakshinamurti, I bow down to Dakshinamurti Tanu, itself shows that as Saguna Brahman, he is the embodiment of pure consciousness, embodiment of Atma. He is emitting nothing but Atma Jnana. He is emitting, teaching nothing but Brahma Jnana. So, the body of Dakshinamurti itself is worthy of worshipping and meditating upon, which all these sages are doing with so much of love and surrender. Kantya nindita kunda kandala vapuh nyagrodha mule vasanti. So, again, Shankaracharya is drawing our attention towards the way he is sitting under the Nyagrodham is that banyan tree at the root as Brahman, the very source of the whole universe. He is sitting there. And how is it? Kantya nindita kunda kandala vapuhu. His body which is radiating that Brahma Tattva, the pure Sattva, the whiteness, the fragrance which is coming from him, it supersedes and it dullens the kanti, the radiance of the jasmine flowers. So if you look at the jasmine flower, even at dark night, with just a ray of moonlight, one can spot the jasmine flower because it is so white. It is pure white. Even if it is behind the leaves and you can't see it, yet from far you can spot jasmine flower is there because of the fragrance which it is emitting. So, the way it is radiating its essence, jasmine flower's essence, is so strong. It pulls everyone towards it. Is that great? But when it is compared with Dakshinamurti, it is very dull. It is nothing. How? Why? Dakshinamurti is emitting the radiance, which is the original, the very source of that jasmine flower. It is this consciousness which is radiating. So, this is original, and that is only the second level or the reflection of what it is. Just like the reflection of sun in the water will not be as clear as the original sun. In the same way, whatever the jasmine is radiating its essence can never be equivalent or compared to what Dakshinamurti is radiating his essence, which is Brahma Tattva. So in front of him, it looks dull. It is second level. Karunyamrita Varidhi Munijanam Sambhavayan Vikshitaihi. And Dakshinamurti is Sambhavayan, he is blessing the Munis, the sages who are all sitting around him, through Vikshitaihi, through his glance, which is like Karunyamrita Vari, the ocean of the nectar of the compassion. So, we have studied about Dakshinamurti as the Guru. So, his way of transmitting the Atma Jnana is so compassionate, and it is like giving them the Amrita. So it is so enjoyable, pleasant, and without any fear, they are just receiving the Atma Jnana from Dakshinamurti. So the transferring of the Jnana is happening in such a smooth, beautiful way that it is Amritamaya, Karunamaya, and they are getting blessed. Mohadvanta vibhedanam virachayan bodhena tattadrisha. So, Mohadvanta, the darkness of the ignorance, vibhedanam, it is totally broken, destroyed by his teaching, preaching, the practical way of he transmitting that Atma Jnana. And how is he doing? He's telling it by Deva, that is Dakshinamurti, Tattvamasiti Bodhayatum Mam Mudravata Panina. By holding the Jnana Mudra, he is teaching Tat Tvam Asi. He is giving that Jnana by which the Moha, the ignorance, which is like the Dhvanta, which is so dark, that is totally gone because of this Jnana Mudra, what he is teaching through this. What is he telling? O Jivatma, this is not your place, being attached to the three Shariras. Your place, your original state is all the way here with Paramatma. And you are that Paramatma only, being one with that Brahman. Because the circuit is complete. It is one. It has become one. But once you are away, O Jivatma, from that Paramatma, you become the limited Jivatma, being embodied in three bodies: Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira. And thus you are calling yourself with ignorance unnecessarily as Jivatma, 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 and you are staying constantly in that notion. So come and join with this, and Tat Tvam Asi. You are this Brahman who is unlimited. That jnana he is giving by Mudravata Panina, by holding that mudra in his hand. So Dakshinamurti, we have to take the help of Dakshinamurti as Saguna Brahma. At the same time, contemplate on Dakshinamurti. The minute we utter the word Dakshinamurti, the mind should expand itself to see Dakshinamurti as that Brahman, pure consciousness, which is just Atma. So until we are able to get that at once in the mind, we can be taking the help of the Dakshinamurti form. But we should not see Dakshinamurti form just on the superficial level. No. Each time when we sit in front of Dakshinamurti, Vigraha or the photo, we have to start contemplating at least one portion of what Dakshinamurti is telling us. He is the image of so many theses, research work, all put together as one Vigraha. So each, like Parashu, the deer, or even the book, what he is holding, even the Akshamala, Tattvakshamala, all these things we have to contemplate. Sit relaxed, contemplate on every part. Even if we take one part for the whole week, we can go much deeper into understanding what Dakshinamurti is telling us. We should take the help of Dakshinamurti as Saguna Brahman. He is teaching us through his form, through his gestures, through whatever he is wearing. Contemplate is very important for us to proceed further. So don't block the mind when we are worshipping Dakshinamurti by taking just the surface, what we see through the physical eyes. It should not stop at that. The mind should go further to see what it is telling. Because Dakshinamurti is a very, very unique, very different, very helpful. He is like live guiding guru who is sitting right in front of us. Slowly we should make him come in us so that we can proceed further along with it. Okay. Om. Shiva Shakti, Shiva Shakti, Shiva Shakti 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 Om.